do it till 4. Why don't you do it, please? Pardon. Okay. Okay, I think it's good.
It's a video closer if you want to.
Yeah. 3. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
morning. Welcome to our presentation. We are happy that you are here and you made time to be here. My name is Zainab Bakayoko. I work with UNFPA, Western Central African Region, based in Dakar. And this is my colleague, Dorothy Dadego.
Hi everyone. Thanks so much for making the time once again. My name is Dorothy Dadego. I am the Quality Assurance Associate with the Supply Chain Management Unit of UNFPA based in Copenhagen. And we are here together to give you a presentation, case study on community empowerment strategies in crisis zone. So Zainab will take over.
All right. I think the first time I didn't get the chance to tell you what I do with UNFPA. I'm the Resource Mobilization and Strategic Partnership Officer at the Wakaro office. UNFPA, as some of you may know, is the Sexual Reproductive Agency of the UN. We deal with everything SRH products and then providing services as SRH, GBV prevention. Our mission is to deliver a world where every pregnancy is wanted, every childbirth is safe, and every young potential is fulfilled. In our region, the Wakaro, Western Central Africa region, we cover 23 countries. A region with the highest fertility rate worldwide, with 4.8%, with a population of more than 620 million people in 2020. 66% of this population are under 25 years old, to be projected to reach 755 million by 2030. Our region is affected by protracted crisis, climate change, political instability, etc. With 6.6 million people who have been impacted by flooding across the region. And then today, we are going to talk about community empowerment in our crisis, and I will let my colleague Dorothy take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Zainab. So you're going to have a little conversation here. So on my way to Geneva from Copenhagen, I was new to the self-service bag check-in. And so this is me, I scanned my bag, I put my bag on the roller belt, and after I scanned the bag just went shh. And I just realized, oh my goodness, I still have my tag in my hands. So that means my bag was going to go and not go to any destination, it was just going to be there. And I knew that that's it, I'm not getting my bags in Geneva, and it was so distressing. For the 10 seconds of my adult life, I literally cried at the airport because I was so distressed. And I know some of you can relate to that. So I just want us to sit in that 10 minutes feeling for just 10 seconds and think about the woman who has lost her life, her family, everything she's worked for because of a flood or because there's a conflict in her region. Or the 10-year-old girl who has been displaced and separated from her family because of a flood or because there's an internal conflict in her region. For just 10 seconds, feel that distress. In this day and age, crisis of floods and internal conflicts happening in our communities are seen as second tier because, of course, there are bigger wars and bigger fish, basically, going on in the world. That seems very, very important. But the one singular crisis, or few singular crises that occurs in every region of the world, floods, internal crisis, yes, has no priorities. Among these things, in attending to floods and internal crises and displacements of people and their well-being and their families, nobody thinks really of gender-based violence or sexual and reproductive health needs of the woman or of the girls or victims. Because regardless of whether there's a flood or not, or whether there's a crisis or not, women are still giving birth. Girls are displaced from their families and their homes. They are left vulnerable and unprotected. But then not a lot of priority is given to this. In Ghana, we have 15,000 refugees due to the Sahel crisis, influxing the country from the northern parts. We also have 26,000 displaced people due to floods and internal crisis from the northern belt and also from the Volta regions. Out of the 26,000, we have 10,304 people victims of gender-based violence. That is literally 1 in every 2 of them. Out of that 10,304, we have 6,440 with sexual and reproductive health needs. Of course, women are still having babies. though this might seem like, oh, it's a lot of numbers, that is literally every other woman sitting here having been a victim of gender-based violence. And if you can look around, you can see how many of us here. The UNFPA Ghana country office came about with the Orange Support Center, which is literally a call center, operational call center that runs 24/7. It's run by volunteers, youth volunteers, and some survivors of gender-based violence. So a day in the life of the call operator will be, you pick up a call, a case is reported, you record the calls, you provide a service provider, and then you follow up. A service is done, the case is closed, we follow up again. And with this, we've been able to reach 20,000 calls. We have supported 1,000 individuals, and we have empowered 300 youth leaders with the Orange Support Center since its initiation in 2021. Now, the Orange Support Center was jointly initiated with an app called Buami app. So the Buami app is basically an online app that helps to educate women, youth, boys, girls about sexual reproductive health rights and their needs, where they do not have to be shy or perturbed about what people will think about them whenever they go and ask in schools, in the pharmacies, in the hospitals. It's them, they have the information at their fingertips. And so Buami, in my local language, means help me. So that was a key code where we knew that it would reach out to the youth and would really send the key messages to them through the Buami app. So co-jointly, we have the Orange Support Center, and then we have the Buami app. And it was a toll-free number, 0800-111-222. And some of the stories we have heard, some extremely horrific. A simple one is by Amma. Her name has been, different name for privacy's sake. So Amma was displaced during the recent floods in Volta region, where she was asked to live with an uncle to be safe whilst her family got things together. Her uncle, during this time, she had the most horrific time of her life. Her uncle abused her physically and sexually. Amma ran away from home, and she saw a poster in the village market where it said, call the Orange Support Center, 0800-111-222. Amma, 9-year-old, has been helped, has been given psychosocial support, has been given medical support, and is now going back to school. That's the work that the Orange Support Center does. Now, with gender-based violence being one of the most human rights abuses in the world, it is shrouded by cultural silence and seen or depicted as an ordinary male-to-female relationship. It's okay for your boyfriend to hit you because it shows that he loves you. It's okay for your husband to have sex with you even though you do not want to. It's okay. It's a human male-female relationship. It's ordinary. It's been seen as okay in our religions, in our cultures. And we identified that and knew that the main stakeholders to prevent this would be traditional leaders. So UNFPA had a whole 3-day session with 7,600 traditional leaders where they pledged to reshape societal norms on gender within their communities. Not just gender-based violence, but also other harmful practices such as child marriage and female genital mutilation. In my community, there's a growing trend where if a woman from 12, 14, 13, once they are able to have a child, when you do have a child, they are shipped to live with the baby father. And it becomes like cohabitation because they prefer you to be with a man than for you to have your own dependency and continue your life. So the minute you have a child, they are shipped to the man's house. And forever, you're with a person. So we realized that cohabitation was also becoming a form of gender-based violence, a root cause of gender-based violence. And that was one of the main acts that the traditional leaders pledged to reform. Now, the next set of people I'd like to talk about are Kaye. So Kaye, in my local language, means people that carry heavy stuff on their head. So they are female headquarters, basically. And most of them are displaced populations due to crisis from the northern parts of Ghana, from the Sahel region, who have fled their homes to the southern parts, and they are looking for a means to an end. And the easiest way to do this was to carry heavy stuff in the market for people who come to shop. Most of these girls do not have homes, to sleep on the streets, and they are very vulnerable to gender-based violence, rapes, defilements, and it's an everyday thing for them. They come as young as 6, and by 14 or 15, they have 2 or 3 more babies. It's a normal thing. That is the trend, that is their life, that's how it goes. To the extent that some of them actually now boast, it's a prideful thing. I have 2 babies, I have 3 babies. I've been able to do this on my own. Yes, it's a survival mode, but yes, that's not ideal. There's more for them. So UNFPA started the Castro project, and that's a Kaye assistance project. What we did was to do, the main aim of the Castro project, however, was to prevent infections amongst these women, protect their dignity, prevent human gender-based violence, and then reduce the rate of defilement amongst those communities. We also sought to educate them on sexual reproductive health needs, and then also provide them vocational training for them to have alternate means of income, so that they can take care of their children and their families. And with that, we're able to provide, in the first phase, 500 education, vocational training, and needs for women who are in the Kaye communities. We taught them how to actually make reusable menstrual hygiene pads. We taught them how to sew, how to make beads, how to make soap, and all these things to be like a welfare or something for them to live by every day. And since then, we recently built, the government of Ghana, through UNFPA, has recently built the Kaye hostel for them, where you could have them off the streets and actually live in a place that's more decent and more dignified. Next, we'll show you a quick video of the Orange Support Center. Just a minute.
UNFPA Ghana is doing. In the beginning of the presentation, I told you that in our region we have 60 million people of our population, and then 66 of that population are young persons. And then as you can see from the video we just showed you, you can see that it was young people that were on the street doing outreach and then advocacy about GBV and how to prevent it. So some of the flagship project that UNFPA Ghana is doing is called the Youth Leaders Fellowship, which is where I myself and Dorothy we were kind to meet each other at that fellowship. I'm a national of Mali, but because of UNFPA Ghana, I was able to get to that program, Youth Leaders Fellowship, where I learned about SRH and GBV prevention in my communities and in Ghana in general. With that, we had like some youthful-led projects, such as the 16 Days of Activism. As you can see in these pictures, we have like a video that we did on the Dankwa Circle in Ghana, where we, the youth, went on the street of Ghana advocating about GBV and then the prevention of GBV in our community. And another flagship project we did was last year about the 16 shades of abuse. You know, we normally say 16 shades of activism, but then we, the youth, we decided to do a 16 shades of abuse, where we asked young people in Ghana to provide a photo context, a picture that depicts GBV in their communities. And these pictures were unveiled at communities where GBV is prevalent, such as school, youth-led organizations, market outreach, and etc. I would like to also talk about economic empowerment. Dorothy already touched on the CASPRO projects, where UNFPA is helping the KIA, the headquarters, to make a living by teaching them how to make soap, how to dye clothing. And from the video, from the slide, we didn't want a slide with a lot of words, but a slide that speaks for itself. As you can see, we have women at the left side. They were making soap, and these soaps, they made it themselves, and then they were able to sell it to people so that they can be empowered and then be able to take care of their kids, because most of them have kids at the age of 14, which is like really prevalent in their communities as well. We also had a partnership with Prada, with UNFPA Ghana and then UNFPA Kenya. We had a partnership with Prada, and we had a project called Fashion Expression, the stories she wears. So these KIA same people that were displayed from the northern part of Ghana and are privileged, young girls from 14 years old to 18 years old, we took them, we trained them how to sew clothes, how to make clothes, and then at the end of the training, we had a fashion show model. And then the lady over there was modeling with a dress that she made it by herself. And then we provided them with materials and tools that when they get back to their communities, they have a means to sew for their family and then make a living as well, which shows that UNFPA is actually empowering young women in our communities, listening to their needs, and then helping them with what they need in the communities. Because most of the time we need to build the resilience among them, not just going there and teaching them, okay, what is SRH, what is GBV, telling them what is it without giving them a means, because we realize that most of the time after leaving the community, because they have dependency on the men, they just go back to that kind of GBV situation again, even though after we provide them what is GBV and SRH. So we decided that let us empower them, let us give them something that they can do, vocational skills that can help them do something and then make a living out of it. And then we also recently started with our cash and voucher assistance that we also want to help them like provide services in terms of SRH in places where they cannot reach. And then with that cash assistance, they can also take it as, let's say, a setup for starting a business, at the same time provide assistance in terms of SRH and GBV services. I would also like to talk about one thing about our innovative inclusivity, which is addressing disability with the aim of the Orange Support Center. We also realize that, of course, everybody's talking about GBV and etc., but we don't also normally talk about the disabled young people or people living with disability. And then we've realized that young women, like when they menstruate, I was asking myself, let's say, like we have someone living with who is blind, and then she's a young girl of 14 and 9 years old who has like a period. How is she going to manage that? Who like teach her how to like put on her tampons or pad? How is she going to do that? So with the Orange Support Center, with the innovation we are currently trying to put in place is that it's a video call assistant, whereby if you are a young person living with disability, with hearing impairments, but then you can provide, you know how to do sign language. We are going to provide sign language interpreters who can as well sign language with you, take your needs and then record it as already explained, and then get you referred to the right people. And then with that, the video, the innovation is going to be incorporated with the Buami app. That's already online app that we want to incorporate in it. And then it is going to enhance accessibility with ensuring that people living with disability can communicate, and then their voice can also be heard, because mostly they tend to be silent, and we want to empower them. So the app empowers users to voice their needs and then fostering a sense of independence and dignity. Oh, okay. Thank you. So that's all we have for you today about community empowerment and GBV prevention and what UNFPA Ghana is doing currently.
And before we take any questions, I'd just like to say one thing about the Oral Support Center. We acknowledge the power in the women and the survivors that call by not just telling them that, okay, these are the services that are available to you. We can give you this, you can do this, you can send you to the hospital. But then after educating them on it, we only act on the needs they ask for. So it is not only about telling them what they want, it's about empowering them to make the right decisions for themselves. And that's the power in the Oral Support Center. That is not a forced service, as a giving or asked service. Because in doing that, we are also trying to let the women know that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to want certain things at certain times and not want everything done for you. So that's also where we also get their power from. So in this picture, these are actually KIA women who were, during the Castle project, who were being given dignity kits and empowered and trained in the vocational skills. In the video you saw previously, you also saw a lot of them carrying the headquarters. That's literally an everyday life for them. An everyday life for them. If you saw, you could see how young some of them were. And that's why the Oral Support Center is here. And we really love, if any of you, the organizations, would like to partner with the Ghana Country Office to actually bring on the inclusivity aspect to improve our reach even to the last mile. So thank you so much for having us, and if you have any questions, please let us know. Okay.
Thanks for that great presentation. My name is Sonia. I work for MSI Reproductive Choices, and obviously we have a country program in Ghana, so I'm sure we already partner on the ground. I had a question around your engagement with traditional leaders. The number of people trained is very impressive, but it'd be great to hear a little bit more on how you measure impact. What happens after the training? How do you measure if this is actually successful?
Should I just answer, or should get a few more rounds of questions? Okay, so if there are no questions, so basically with the impact, after the leaders have been trained, we have follow-up meetings. It's not always just about training and then you sign the agreement, yes, you're going to reform, yes, and then they do it. Culture is a very intrusive thing that is really deep-seated in the hearts and minds of people. So it's not just about the training, it's actually a day-by-day work with them. So we have timelines and we have what we call a plan for them. So it's not an instant thing. We could actually roll this out in a year or 2 years, but then we have timelines. So after a few months, we expect this to be done, and these are things we discuss with them and agree on together. So once it's a partnership and we both agreed on it, it's easier for us to hold them accountable. Hey, you said in 3 months time you're going to have this meeting with all the traditional leaders or all the parents, in the community, have you done it? And then they'll be like, no, we haven't done it. I'm like, okay, no, so we have to do it because, and it's easier because sometimes these programs are sponsored by UNFPA itself, because not fully sponsored, but they're co-sponsored, because we do want them to own the projects. So sometimes we have maybe those, I think after the first 3 months, there's a meeting with the parents or community leaders where UNFPA co-organizes this, where we discuss this, and then from there, there's another meeting with faith-based leaders, because that's also one criteria that we look at for. And then there are leaders with teachers and everything, because we look at all the head or leadership sets within the community and trying to bring all of them to one common ground. When we have that going, then we move on. So when we have that understanding, then we start beginning the transformation. That's when we start teaching in the churches, in the mosques, in the schools, that hey, it's not okay to do this. And now the leaders also make it a taboo, which is a huge thing in the communities. Once it's a taboo, once you are caught, it's a huge thing. You can be banished, you can be imprisoned. So there's also that factor where there are consequences to these actions as well. And then they want to make this is made known to everybody. That is it. But it's not like a one-off thing. There's actually a lot of follow-ups, a lot of meetings. Some are still even ongoing. But then the fact that they're even willing to come to the room to have a conversation, that's the most important thing. And it's easier because now sometimes it comes to a conversation between them. We are looking for which community is able to do this the most, and it's actually a challenge between them, which makes our work easier, to be very honest. But then it's not a one-day thing, it's actually a follow-up. And we're actually in the first few phases. Some communities have actually done the taboo. They've stated that gender-based violence is not a taboo, child marriage is not a taboo, and people who are caught are actually banished or they do have some jail time. So that deterrence is also there. So that's how we manage about it.
Hi, I'm Miranda. I'm with Islamic Relief, and actually my question was sort of a follow-up question to yours. I wanted to ask about the faith leader engagement or traditional leaders specifically. I know from visiting Bangladesh, we have a program there, and I just wanted to know more about buy-in. So for our programming, we worked with a lot of local imams to get rid of the practice of child marriage in the region. And we found talking to them about the health impacts on young children getting married too early, and then even societal impacts, and then they would actually develop a lot of the religious, they go back in their own religious traditions and then preach that, right, in Friday prayers, etc. So I guess I'm just wondering, this is all amazing, what is the buy-in factor for the community to actually get on board with this?
So most of these communities have a declining youth rate. The girls are leaving because they are not being treated well. So we have communities where there are literally no women attending to the men. And for in certain cultures, that's like a huge thing. That's a very, very huge thing. And there's also modernization where people are moving into communities with different mindsets, and some of the communities are forced to come out of the cultural sects and then fit into the new world. And actually, we have incentives with communities that have actually gone beyond just the talking phase and are actually implementing projects. We are having more sponsors and donors investing in those communities. So when that happens, it sort of encourages other communities to okay, so we want some of that money. We need that borehole as well. We want that school built in our communities as well. So that is the main three things that sort of buying in. And it's also more of a ripple effect, because we realize that we understand the power of influence. When we were able to get a certain chief, it was easier for him to convince the others to just fall in line. And that was something that really, really helped us. We got the main paramount in central part of Ghana, where the GDPs are, the harmful practices were hotspots. And because he agreed, it's like your boss has agreed to go for a program and then you're like, I'm not going to go. No, you're going to go. You're going to fall in line. So that's one thing that really helped us, aside from the incentives. Sorry, yes. So that's one thing that really helped us. Identify the key ingredients. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the presentation. My name is Luisa. I'm with Swiss Churchy, and my question is more to the Orange Sports Center. You mentioned that you provide psychosocial support, and that's very much based on self-determination. So how much the people that call ask you to help. So I'm just wondering, are you equipped to also provide, for example, emergency relocation support if someone says they really want to physically also get out of the situation? Because you mentioned that cohabitation is also a factor that you identified leads to increased violence.
Yes, we do provide emergency evacuation situations. However, it hasn't been fully established yet because getting victims out of these situations is very hard. So we do partner with certain NGOs who are based in the communities. So there was actually an instance where one girl had to stay with the NGO for a while, for a very long while, before we were actually able to get her out of the community. But the funny thing is that sometimes they always go back. And when they go back, they leak out your secrets that, oh, I was staying here. And then now these NGOs are becoming a target. So it's a bit of a challenge at the moment with the evacuation. But then, yeah, we use local NGOs as shelters for the meantime, holding periods. And then we are able to get them out of the communities when we give them a skill and all those things. But like I said, it's based on what they want. So in as much as we try to educate them and empower them and encourage them with like, hey, this is what your life could be if you leave, this is what holds in store for you. We always want to do what they want. But then yeah, it's been a bit of a challenge by local NGOs as shelters. That's how we do it for now.
Thank you for the presentation. I actually have two questions. The first one is about the economic empowerment part. It's quite a similar project that I see in many countries among many organizations when it comes to women's economic empowerment. And however, quite a lot of them, I would say it's strengthening the gender stereotyping on the gender roles. And when we talk about gender transformative approach, one of the things that we would like to do is actually challenging the traditional gender roles in the society. So is there any way that you think in the future that we can do to actually challenge the gender role by actually providing any other, for example, business consultation or things that's not only related to handicraft, but something further than that? And the second question is, I look around the room and this is the first time that I went to the whole conference that I only see women in this room. How do we better engage men in this conversation, and especially when it comes to gender-based violence? Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was actually the first thing I said. Yeah. So it was actually the first thing I noticed when everybody said, like, wow, the men. Yes, but to answer your first question, yes. So the skills that we actually provided, it wasn't based on the women, so let's do this for them. It was more of availability and also interest, actually. So in Ghana, the thing is that you're only interested in things that you're exposed to. They haven't been exposed to architecture, business management. It's still very gendered, like gender roles are still very real in our communities. And so these are things they easily gravitate or they easily think they can accept and actually fit in. But then yes, it's actually a conversation that we should be having, that how we're going to introduce and tell the woman that she can actually become an architect if she wants to be, that she can be a footballer, like maybe like stereotype male roles if she's just interested in. And that's actually a conversation that we should be having. But I know that in schools now, okay, Zena wants to say, but I do know that in schools now, we have curriculums that are actually open to all. At first, it was very gender stereotyped, where women can only offer culinary skills and men do swimming or golf. But then those things have been eliminated, and so now it's open for everybody. Zena, you want to say something?
Yeah, just a quick one. In terms of the gender stereotypes and then in fact the economic empowerment of the women, we've realized that even though in our communities we say that most of the men are like the leader of the house, the leader of the home. But then the women are actually the ones that are providing. Some of them, they don't have, let's say, that kind of jobs or economic empowerment, but they go to the farm, they farm for the men and come and feed the family. So in terms of that, there is no sense of like saying that, okay, this is like, these jobs are for women and these jobs are for men in our traditional communities. But then the men takes like, let's say, the lead, they are the leaders, but we are the one that we do the behind work. We are the one who does all the works in the family, feeding the family and everything. So in terms of economic empowerment, we are already doing it. It's not something that is not there, that we are not doing, but it's just that the men are taking the lead for it, and then women are just left behind because we are the home taker. We take care of the home, but we don't do anything about anything. When it comes to leadership and everything, we are just left behind, and then we say that, okay, this role or these jobs are for women, and then this role and jobs are for men. Okay, that's just another thing.
Yeah, that's actually true. And to answer your second question about how to get more men involved, I think I want to throw it back to the audience. How do you think I can get more men? Because funny enough, sometimes I feel like the topic of gender-based violence and SRHR is coming and for men right now. It's like you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, there they go again. But then there are actually some of them that are very, very practical about it, especially because we have amongst the fellowship a champion of positive masculinity who educates men about what masculinity is and what it should look like, and not what the stereotype says it should look like. So that's one thing that we are championing, but Zina, we have something to say?
Well, I also wanted to say that how to involve the men and the boys. I think it also starts with the women. If we have our sons, we should try kind of let them. I know here in this community you do that, but where I was brought up, like my siblings, my brother for instance, my father would say that you should never go to the kitchen. But the women are allowed to go to the kitchen. They are not allowed to go to the kitchen. So I think it starts from the home, from the houses, where the parents, mothers and fathers have to let the boys as well take or engage with some of the house call and let them know that this job is not only meant for men or for women or girls, it's also for both of us.
Okay. Contribution?
Hi, I'm Aya, and I work at Wash United. We work on menstrual health and hygiene. And I think that GDV and SRHR are, of course, have an intersection with menstrual health and hygiene, and we have seen a lot of questions arise in general, how to involve men and boys in those issues and how to also educate them. And I think that's something that we can start with if it's harder to reach men, is to reach boys in schools, how to partner them with ministries, with governments, to implement this kind of educations and curriculums within schools as an extra activity after school, or even in like science class or whatever. But you can always frame it differently, because sometimes the title creates a lot of avoidance. And even we have seen that as well from like a lot of girls in like sessions on menstrual health and hygiene. When you will tell them, yes, it's about period, they will not come because they're afraid of that. So you always have to put it as a naming that is socially acceptable, and always find a way to contextualize your presentations or like your approach to them and accept the cultural differences, because the Western norms are not accepted everywhere. And that's something that I feel that lacks in a lot of approaches of a lot of organizations or a lot of governments funding projects on the field. So I think that we have to see, including women as well, men and boys, from a perspective of a case-to-case point, and not just like a general approach.
And also, I just remember, there's one of the, I think it was in Niger or Cameroon, there's actually a men's club, yes, where I think it was UNFP in Niger that trained the men in the community, and he has like a weekly class for all men. So every Friday, all the men gather, and he talks about GBV, and he talks about sexual reproductive health. Because sometimes in these communities, you cannot even have a C-section or an abortion until your husband or your boyfriend signs it. So you can't even go to the hospital for antenatal care or like prenatal care until your husband or your boyfriend okays it. So that was the whole concept. So for men by men. that's one key thing that we need to do. So we need to identify people in the communities who are great influencers, who have the ears of people, and then champion them to lead the communities. That's one great thing. And also with the schools, that's also an exceptional way, because I think one of the youth-led projects we do is to actually visit schools and then talk about menstrual hygiene and GBV, sexual reproductive health rights for boys. Not even the girls, just for the boys. And it's so awkward because you don't tell them what we are coming to talk about. You just say, oh, it's sexual ed education. Like, okay, so they think you're coming to talk about sex and all those things. And I mean, for a kid, like adolescents, sometimes they can really excite them. And they come here talking about periods. I'm like, you should see the change in the room. You should see the change in the room. But then make them understand that your actions have consequences. You can't just sleep with a girl or have intimate relationship with a girl and then think everything's her business. No, they are actually equally involved as she is. So that's one thing we do, sex ed, instead of menstrual hygiene class, sex ed, and then they come running. And I mean, you can think it's a glory, but I mean, it works. So, yeah, if you have any more contributions on that, yeah.
I just have a very quick comment before I continue. I'm sorry that I have to speak again. I very agree with what you just said, and there's one thing that I do think a lot of us need to also reconsider is why when we talk about gender-based violence, it's so many times only focusing on women and girls. Boys are victim of gender-based violence too, men are victim of gender-based violence too, and that's one of the ways to actually engage people, to actually make them understand this is not only an issue that's happening to women and girls. There's something that happened a couple years ago in one of the country, the protection cluster. There was a case with a boy experiencing sexual violence, and the cluster struggled to find out which cluster should handle the issue because the GBV cluster believed that this is not an issue related to boys and related to girls and women, so it's not a GBV issue. And child protection cluster believed that this is a GBV issue, so it should be GBV cluster. In the end, nobody could find an answer on which cluster should actually deal with this. So maybe this is something that we actually need to reconsider on what does gender-based violence actually mean. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just also reflecting, it's also about, I guess, teaching these young boys about what kind of relationships do you want with the women and girls around you. Do you want a fulfilling relationship where you're challenged and where you're interacting with, if we're talking about a heterosexual relationship with your partner as an equal, you know, which will bring you much more joy than thinking like, oh, I can just control this person and it will lead to a happy life. I think it's also about showing like when it comes to sort of emotional support and sexual relationships. If you come from a position of equality, it's just so much more. It's just so much more joyful in the end for both partners to experience. So I think it's also about like, okay, how does this kind of system really also prevent men and boys from actually benefiting, and also how do these stereotypes also prevent boys from actually being able to do things that they wanted to do if they wanted to go into the kitchen but couldn't. That's a shame for them, and so no one really wins in these kinds of situations.
It's a super dicey topic, and I don't know. Yeah, no, it's a super dicey topic. It's very heavy. It's very weighty. It's a real thing because it affects you, affects your whole family, cousins, even sometimes you yourself. And it's not something that people, it's called, like I said, it's very culturally shrouded, and it's seen as ordinary male-female relationship. That's how it's supposed to be. And changing people's mindset is one heck of a problem before you start changing your activities and how they do their things. And not only talk about passed on traumas and passed on beliefs and passed on notions from generation to generation. It's like a very, I think it needs something that needs to be targeted, like treated holistically. And I think our case study really here was to empower everybody here to still get on board and still say, hey, the fight is still going on, and it does not look like we might be winning all the time, but then you still have people outside that are doing certain things that you could actually learn from, that we could learn from you. Because right now I've learned so much from what you guys have said, like different perspectives, and about introducing, like how to introduce the man or the boy child into the whole conversation. That's super, super, super important. And Zainab, have anything to say? Okay. So if you don't have any questions, I don't want to be the African that's always late. So if you do not have any questions, I'd like to say thank you so much. And I really hope the next time we do this, we have more men in the room. I really, really do hope so. And thank you so much for coming. But if you have any more questions, you can over to us.
I have a bit of a mean question, sorry. We're talking about women's economic empowerment, right? Why are you not paying your contact center staff?
Yeah. We actually pay them.
Oh, but you said they were volunteers.
But volunteering is not free. We stopped that notion of volunteering being free.
No, it's like volunteering for them to come inside without us asking them, but we also give them a means of
paid.
Okay, that's great.
Yes. They are paid. It's a 24/7 center. They are paid. Yeah, so we don't want to, it's not a job. It's something that you should come free, like free from your heart, out of your heart, come and do. And trust me, they also go through a lot of psychosocial training, because sometimes what they hear, it's very disturbing and very horrific. We've had some of our peers actually in the call center, and they have to go, like, detached from, like, for like 2 weeks before they come back. It's that bad. So this is not a work that you can do for free. You need to be paid.
Why do you not just call them workers then?
No, we like to use the word volunteers, because then it shows the willingness of them. We don't want it to be work. So
I
actually,
just assumed they were unpaid.
no, they are paid. And plus, we revised this notion of volunteers being not paid. Volunteers should be paid.
I think you're just confusing everyone.
Oh.
I mean,
I will say that's a really Western notion though, because it's like, that's not the way it's seen in India either. It's you're volunteering your interests and you're getting paid.
But don't we all do that? I'm here because I'm interested in the subject matter of what the organisation that I work for does. I'm not here to just
That's not the case for everyone out there.
They don't work because they want to work, because they
Work because they have to.
But I mean, I have to work.
Yeah.
Because nobody else is Yeah. But in theory, I'm a volunteer. That's interesting.
So for us, it was just a way to, like, create a culture in the Orange Support Center. So we don't restrict them, like, we have shifts, we hope that you come early, but it's not work where I'm looking at your KPIs, I'm looking at your outputs. No, I just need you to be there, and I just need you to do your job, and that's it. But then we are very well paid. We are very paid.
Very relieved to hear that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
If you have more questions, you can ask and we can have discussion.
the last one.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Because even like as a result of my research, like this is specific for Canada, but you're doing a lot of
Contact that for years now.
This is the difficult part that everyone's
but
having
it's good to still know the resources that
network is way too wide. So I would say, so MSF, I don't know what you're
So we're based in London.
so as much I guess
even though I have
so maybe you should try to contact someone with MSF.
I know, it felt like we should just be in a circle. Pop it all out. No,
But if you're but also because usually the six headquarters are functioning very differently with all the different operations and everything. So, for example, it doesn't really happen with like all MSF departments. So usually it's something, and if it's working well, then they might go to other places also. So I was saying this exactly. I don't really know. But just I think on the website there should be. You just finished. I was in Germany, which is also related to MSF. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, sure. It was.
Yeah, thank you. I work for MSF, and in MSF, volunteerism is part of the MSF workers are volunteers, which is technically also not the case. Although all the doctors and nurses volunteer their time to get out from their hospitals and have a database pay, but there is a base pay. But still the name is called volunteer because they're not getting the certain amount of salary to whatever other people are getting.
No, it's I mean, I work with and we have a lot of people in the US, and they technically enough to live is also complicated, and they also get to travel and so on. So it's true that they also get paid. It's not like all of them there with like producers and even trying to hire. Oh, sorry. I also started as a teacher, and we actually was on a time for me. They did they stopped working to get paid. Like anyways, because they didn't get paid before, and because of that, now we get a stipend. It's not called a salary. Yeah, exactly. It's not a salary because everyone in the UNC building gets paid because they did. Not a manifestation, but.
Have you heard about the guy that was in front of the US House in Geneva?
Yes. And also in New York, they also did the same in New York. They camp outside, and I think it's honestly I support that because interns also get the job done and they work a lot and it's all.
Yeah, and I did my studies more on humanitarian organizations with employment inequality. Bonjour, ça va? Je l'ai toujours là. Je l'ai envoyé une photo à mes collègues. Je l'ai toujours. Ah bah, est-ce que c'est bon? On prend une photo pour mes collègues. Non, il n'y a pas de ça. For the internship to come to Geneva, then the people in Europe to come to Geneva, because quite a lot of them that are able to even apply for the internship in Geneva are coming from the higher class family in places outside of the West.
Because I just got a message from our
Western assumption,
And like to even have the idea of applying for internship in Geneva, if you're coming from a random, let's say, African country or South Asian country, most likely you're able to have the higher education locally, most likely meaning that you're already coming from a very wealthy family. So then in that case, it's very important to pay to come over
for real internship compared to the people in Europe who actually move
Oui, bah bien sûr, c'est ça. C'est pour ça qu'il faut avoir des partenariats pas une fois que chacun commence à zéro.
Exactement, c'est ça, donc un peu parce que là, il y avait quelques années comme ça, tout le monde venait en Afrique faire ce que je veux faire.
Moi, je sais, je pense que c'était plus une compétition qu'un travail ensemble. Super. Bah, au plaisir de se revoir. Et bah, on est en contact. De toute façon, j'ai déjà ton contact. Le mien aussi.
Oui, oui, j'ai déjà ton contact.
Voilà, super.
Attends, je vais prendre pour toi aussi, au cas où. Je vais
Oui.
pas...
Attends, avec le bracelet comme ça, je te rappelle.
Oh, yeah!
People traveling from all these other countries.
You're welcome.
Get everyone in the building.
I think we should stop the live streaming.
I wanted to stop, but I was reading my calls and then thanks for lifting the calls.
Oh my goodness, the thing is still going on. People are still watching.
How do we hand it?
Let's just say thank you guys
Thank
for
you
watching.
guys for watching.
Really appreciate it, and we'll see you on the other side. When we figure out how to end this live stream.
Yeah, how do we end it?
Oh my goodness.
Okay, I can see cancel.
Here.
I can see cancel.
Zainab, you're the Gen Z.
Yeah, I'm the Gen Z, but I'm not the... Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
How do we stop? Okay.
And more people are.
Okay.